Welcome to the F50 Woman Podcast, dedicated to sharing stories from a diverse community of women in order to provoke you into a passionate pursuit of life, build unshakable character, and achieve extraordinary things. Now, here is your host, Julia Jack.
Do you want the world to change? Do you want your community to rise? Do you want your family to thrive? Do you want to have a better life? Then get a notebook. A new year is dawning, and a new season in your life is beginning. From wherever you're listening, whenever you're listening, this episode applies to your life right now, because all positive change begins with you. So come in and learn about leadership from the inside out. From Renita Alexander and Veronica Williams, two leading ladies, experienced and wise F50 women. Hello, hey, F50 Women audience. This is our first ever video and podcast, both. So if you're listening to us on audio, please go over to YouTube, find us on there or my website. And if you're watching the video, if you just want to listen because you're driving in your car, drive safely. So just put on the podcast. And I can't wait for you to hear from these two incredible ladies. I am so blessed to have them here today. I'm going to quickly introduce them. Renita Alexander, she's a servant leader. She's an author. She's a retired United States Air Force colonel. From Leadership Unlocked, that is her company. And she started her company after retiring from the United States Air Force. So welcome, Renita.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. And Veronica Williams, she is a master certified life coach, a keynote speaker, and a certified facilitator from Alliance Seminars. And she is not new to us here at the F50 Woman. She was on podcast episode 21, and it's titled Lemons in My Life. And you can't miss that one. It was just an incredible talk. A lot of wisdom came out of that. And wait till you hear her life of faith. It's faith building. So welcome, Veronica. Thank you for being here again.
Thank you, Julia, for having me. I'm excited to be here again.
Yeah, so we're here to have a chat with some powerful leaders in their industries and in their communities and in their families. And us as women facing 50, yes, we got some things on right, but I know we can get some things twisted on a little better. So I'm excited to hear who you are and what you do and give us some keys to the kingdom. So I'll start with Renita, since I introduced you first. Tell us who you are, tell us what you do, and tell us why you're here and what your purpose is.
Oh my goodness, that's a lot.
Yes.
Yes. First of all, thank you so much again for having me. I'm excited to be here this afternoon. I was just in a mentoring session this morning talking with some young adults and, some of the same things and trying to share some knowledge, some things that I've learned in my 50 plus years.
Yes.
Earth, right? So I'm not facing 50. I'm a little bit more seasoned than that. So.
That's right. Yes. I always say we're either facing 50 from the front or the back, but we're always facing this.
There you
somehow.
go. There you go. I'm about halfway. I think I'm about halfway to the journey. So, Renita Alexander, I am a child of God. I'm a child of WL and Fannie Mae Smith from Florence, Alabama. I'm the oldest of 5 children and the oldest grandchild on both sides of my family. So you could say I learned everything I learned about leadership mostly in the Air Force, but I actually started my leadership journey as a child. When you're the oldest grandchild and the oldest child, you often get those kind of experience where you're voluntold to lead your siblings and or cousins in some activity, which I always compared to like herding cats, right? So that was kind of my initial leadership experience. And then, my Southern upbringing was responsible for, one of the leadership lessons that I learned. And, it's all about leadership for me. I learned, as being the oldest, that responsibility with no authority requires a relationship, right? And so leadership is all about relationship. I learned, being from the South, that, disagreement doesn't necessarily mean disrespect. Okay. That was one of the things I kind of got as a Southern girl. But, one of the things that, if you are a leader, especially if you're a leader of teams, the whole point in having a team is to get different perspectives and different, experiences. And so, if you're going to expect some disagreement on a leadership team. And then, of course, my very first Air Force job, I learned something about myself as a leader, and that is leading myself. Yeah. But, we can't really expect to lead others well if we're not leading ourselves. And as the leader, one of the things I learned is that I can infect my team, or I can positively impact my leadership team based on what I bring to the table, how I show up. And so I always try to show up appropriately and authentically positive. And, what helps me do that is, I have a routine in the morning. I start my day off with prayer, with meditation, with just sitting with myself and, getting myself prepared for the day and how I want to show up. I started my company after spending almost 27 years in the Air Force. And one of the things I discovered post Air Force is there's a lot of people out here doing leadership that don't really understand what leadership is. And so I started Leadership Unlocked, which is the name of my company, to help leaders really dig deep and discover that authentic, unique leadership DNA that's within each of us, so that they can share that with those that they are privileged to lead. They can unlock that, they can show up authentically, and then get the positions that they need to be in, that they deserve. Because one of the things that I just really think we need in this world is more authentic, more servant leadership. If we're not focused on something other than and bigger than ourselves when it comes to leadership, why are we here?
Yeah. Good question.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So I think, let's see, that's who, the what, and the why. The why is, I just think everybody can be a better leader. I believe if we're not growing, we're dying. Yeah. Even as a seasoned woman, there's always more that I can learn. And so I love being around young people because I'm always learning from them. I have more to learn, but I have a lot to share because I know some things.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do. And we're going to just drag some of that out of you today. So thank you. Thank you for that introduction. And Veronica, these are just two incredible women of God. I'm just going to put that right on the table because I know that has something to do with their spark in leadership as well. But Veronica, please introduce yourself. Tell us who you are, what you do, and why you do it. What's your purpose? What's the point?
Yeah. Yes. Hello again. I am Veronica. As you've mentioned, I'm a co-owner of Alliance Seminars Coaching and a master certified life coach, as well as a licensed minister and a daughter of God. Why I do what I do, I want to provide expertise and assistance as it relates to relationship and purpose to individuals. I'll say I'm the seventh daughter and I'm the youngest of 11. I'm originally from California, from a large family. I'm a wife, I'm a mom, and I'm just super excited to just help be a disciple for Christ.
Nice. Yes. So you both talked a little bit about your purpose. How do we find our purpose? We do things in life. We have jobs, we have children, we have desires, we have things we want. But why are we here? How do we find that?
Well, I think it's the things that, the dreams that we have, the things that God places on us, that, those things that we have a knowing about, that we feel that we are led to. And, often we don't feel like we have the tools, but, my feeling is that we wouldn't be given the dream if we didn't have the capacity to fulfill it. And so when we are given those things, he wants us to act on it. He wants us to get to it. And I think all of the things, our personality, our skills, our knowledge are all in service to that purpose. Mm-hmm. And then our responsibility is to gain what we need to gain, I think, to really be able to do it. And I think your purpose changes. I should say maybe the way I exercise it is different. Okay. I'm kind of doing the same thing that I have been doing my whole adult life, but I'm just doing it in a different way. Yeah. And I felt really called to do this after I retired, and I saw a need, but I felt it was something that I was called to help fulfill. So that, it's the things that we feel, the things that are placed on us and that we have to act on so that, we get it while it's hot.
Yeah. Yeah. I think what I've noticed doing this podcast is that a lot of people are born with a thing. They're born with something they just gravitate to naturally. And as a child, you just do it. You're not trying to have a purpose or a plan. And then as they get older, like you said, Renita, you shift, but you're always searching for the right lane to give an outlet to that purpose that you were born with. So that was great.
Absolutely.
Now, and Veronica, what do you think?
For me, as a Christian, it's living out my God-given talent, because he gives it to us. From when we were in our mother's womb, he created us, and he created us to be here on earth for a purpose. So it was that for me. Yeah. And you find it by paying attention to the situations that you find yourself in, or that I say that God put you in. And every situation is to help us maximize those gifts that God has given us. We just have to pay close attention to aligning, for me, my life with God's plan, and to work towards it as a wife, as a mom, as a sister, and even in our workplaces and in friendships. And that's how I find purpose, how I have found my purpose, and how I try to help others to find their purpose.
Okay. Talking about your God-given purpose, how do you not get lost, distracted, confused?
I would say surround yourself with positive people. Surround yourself with people that are where you want to go, meaning like, don't just stay with the people at the same level that you're at. And then find mentors and find resources that are out there to assist you to get into where you want to go and what you feel that purpose is for you. I think the way life happens is how we trip on it and how we discover it. It could be taught to us to a degree as to how our parents rear us in certain areas and things like that. But we discover it in our teens when we become outside of the shell of our family. For me, I had to learn my own individuality. And I got it by the time I graduated high school. I finally felt like, oh, wow, I got my own individuality. My identity wasn't found in my siblings, because I had 10 above me, right? And you discover that and you live life, and the challenges that you have in life and the challenges that you go through in life will all help you discover it. And that's also where you discover a passion, things that you really like. And you look at how can it not only benefit me, but how can it also benefit others? I think that's how I discovered Alliance Coaching. Darrell and I, we both were sold out Christians as young people and in our adult lives. And when we connected back up in our life, in our adult life, that's what we discovered, where we were both going and where God was leading us. And can we get on the same train,
Yes.
And so that's what happened. And we both love teaching the word of God to children, to young people, to adults. And it was discovered once we got married and we saw so many relationships that were broken, that were tearing down. Of course, it started out with me being a mentor to young girls, and then mentoring women that were in marriages that they couldn't figure out why the man was the way that he was, and then also just giving them more purpose and finding themselves and letting them know that a man does not define you just because he has the role of a husband, and that you need to really seek and search a little deeper to allow God to give you and show you your value. And why you're with who you with, and learn how to make decisions. I was fortunate to have my sisters as my mentors who were in good relationships. And even if they happened to meet someone that wasn't the right way, they showed me how to safely get out of a relationship.
Yeah.
Which is so important, because we don't make a plan when we're in abusive relationships. We don't make a plan whether the abuse is emotional, physical, or otherwise. And so my passion, I guess, by having so many sisters that poured into me and so many friends that I met over the years who were older that poured into me, that was my passion to give back.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to pay it forward. I didn't realize that that was a calling that God had on me as well. When I discovered that it wasn't just my husband that was called to the ministry to be a servant leader, but I've already had been doing it. But now it was time for me to come from behind the curtains. I love to work from behind the curtains, but I got a push one day when God said, no, I need you to get from behind the curtains. There's no more storms, like the lightning strikes that keeps you from hiding. You need to just go out and be bold and be who I've called you to be. And so I think if people had encouragement and things like that, and discovered the resources that are around to show them why they're living, and how what they go through in life is not to keep them stuck, but it is to pull out of them so they may flow and grow in the areas that God desires of them, and then to help someone else.
Yes. Those storms really are meant to build you and not to break you. So Renita, tell us how you, or what your advice would be to not get off the rails.
How to stay on track.
How to stay on track. Yes.
Stay on track. Right.
Yes.
I think, first of all, once you kind of are in alignment, once you've made that discovery about what it is that you're called to do, and I agree with what Veronica said, I mentioned, your personality, your talents, all of those things are there to serve that purpose. Then, being discerning about what is not serving and who is not helping you serve your purpose. Not everybody can be on the train with you. Sometimes there are people there that are draining you, are trying to carry you off track. And so, Veronica mentioned, those people that are in alignment with the direction that you're going in, those mentors, people that aspire to something, maybe not the exact same thing, but that aspire to continue to grow, to continue to lean into their God-given purpose, then those are the people that you want to surround yourself with. And then, the other thing that we both mentioned is this idea of something other than and bigger than, right? And so if you find yourself serving you, right? It's like, what is this serving? Is it serving me? And which is not to say, and I don't mean to say that you should not take care of yourself. I don't mean that, it's not selfish, it's self-care. And before we can pour into anybody or anything else, it has to be from a place of fullness and abundance, right? Fullness and abundance, right? Yes. So I'm not about the lack, right? There's enough for all of us.
Yes.
We have to come from, a place of fullness and abundance, but, making sure that we are being discerning about the things that, serve and don't serve our purpose and, don't serve us. I mean, I had to say no to a mentee here recently who had asked me to be a part of something that, I knew in my spirit, it's like, I'm just not in a place where I can sit in that toxicity and be okay. Being again, just discerning and aware of the things that are fulfilling your purpose and fulfilling you, energizing you, filling you up, not draining you. Those are the things that I do to stay on purpose, and that I encourage the people that I help be better leaders to stay on purpose.
Yeah. So have either of you ever been in a place where you feel like you had to say yes to everything as leaders, or that you've felt like you had to try to save the world in a sense? That, yes, I have to go do that for them because they need me. And I have to go do that for them because they need me. Have you ever been in that situation? Did you have to move out of that? Or were you always very aware that I can't save everyone and that's not my purpose?
You know, that's just in life that we all try to be rescuers. We want to rescue everybody.
Yeah.
But it's when you go through so many other discoveries, when you have to figure out and identify, am I here to rescue, or am I here just to serve as a presence of support? Okay. And identify that. But that goes through growth. You go through a whole lot of that rescuing before you discover, like, wait a minute, their emergency is not my emergency.
Wow.
But
yes.
Maybe I'm just here for their support.
Yes.
Maybe I'm just to serve a ministry of presence rather than a ministry of help. Right. Because so often we go in when other people are going through to rescue them, and we hinder what God's plan is for them.
Yes.
Even when we've gone through, even when I've gone through, I'm quick to call mom and dad and my sisters. Yeah. And when they've had to say no, it was the hardest pill to swallow. Mm-hmm. And it's not after everything goes through that you realize that their no was good for me, was good because that was the only way that was going to steer me and lead me to the path that God has me on. And that's what we have to discover when people call on us and when we go through. We're by no means perfect. Let me tell you that now. I'm just a regular human, and we're saved. We're sinners saved by grace. Mm-hmm. And that sin happens every day in thought, word, or deed, And so we have to always be mindful of what's happening around us and what purpose and what aspect are we to be a part of other people's lives. No, to me, I've learned to tell people is one word and it has a period after need. People don't want just no, but we feel compelled to give an explanation. But what happens is giving the explanation makes things worse. Just say no,
Drags you into an endless hole of explanations and why not.
But what we go through is what gets us to our purpose. If we don't go through anything in life, we'll never discover our true purpose. We'll never discover what works for us and what doesn't work for us. And we will never discover who's in and who's out of our lives and what purpose that they serve for us. We have to lead by example. That's what servant leaders do. They lead by example, and they are always teaching who they're serving how to be better, and how to embark on discovering, is this for me to really pursue, or is this for me just to know that it's there?
Right.
To get me to my next. Some things are not always
yes, for you to pursue.
You to pursue. And it's okay. And yes, we stumbled on how we got to this point where we look like we look good, right? We don't look like we feel. We don't look like what we've been through, right?
Right.
But life serves us well, even in the tragedies, even in the storms, even in whatever it is. And so don't discredit you're going through and the stuff that was a mess in the midst of all of it, because eventually when you really discover your true purpose and your true reason why things go on and how you just get into stuff, we've all been wrapped up in stuff. Like you were talking about, Renita, trying to go to a place that have toxicity,
Yeah.
We've all been there, but then now we're working out, how do you get out of it? And so that's why you have to always be in alignment in your prayer life, in alignment with your devotion, and true to yourself. And I think as long as we're authentic and true with anyone that we come in contact with, they will accept our no's. They will accept when we have to decline some things or when we can't be a part of it. But we can show them, I may not be able to be there, but I'll support you. You send them a little card or a little text message before their event and let them know, like, I might not be there, but I'm thinking about you today.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah. You said something, Veronica, no period. I always say no is a complete sentence.
Yes.
It is okay to say no.
Yeah. And for a lot of us, feel like saying no because, what's happening is in my life, I have this. And like you said, it just makes it worse, because then they're like, that's not so important. It just makes it worse.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And if you say no, if you know in your spirit you're not supposed to do it and you do it anyway, right? So then you feel some kind of way about that. So now you're giving from that place of lack. And, the person's receiving it with some strings attached, and they feel that. People feel when we're not giving from a giving place, from an abundant place. They feel that, right? But you talked about, those obstacles that we encounter along the way. It's there to develop us. I mean, I'm a big fitness enthusiast. In fact, I've been a fitness instructor and I'm a personal trainer. And, that resistance training is how we develop muscles. It's how we, maintain our ability to walk and do things as we get a little bit more seasoned, right? Yeah. So, if we're not allowing people to experience things, they're not going to grow. Perhaps in the military, there were times where I felt like I had to do some things, and I did do some things. But as I got more senior, as I was in command, and my commands got, more people and larger. I mean, I had 7 subordinate commanders in my last job. I just had to, learn how to sit back, because, it wasn't my responsibility to do certain things. I'll never forget at my last job. So my last job, I was the mission support group commander, which, if you think of an Air Force base like a small city, I was like the city manager. And I remember I had been on the base, maybe a week or two. I hadn't even moved until my permanent quarters. And I got a phone call from the crisis action team at like 4:00 in the morning. It was like, maybe an hour or so before I was going to get up and, start my routine anyway. And they called to let me know that somebody a few layers underneath me had a DUI, in which, that's one of those things that, it's an issue in the, in the military. But I'm not the one that would take care of it, right? There's several other people that would take care of it before it got to me. And so I told them, don't call me at 4:00 in the morning for anything that's not actionable to me, right? I can get this information at regular duty hours, right? But see, they were, used to people, having to know. And it was like, no.
Right. That's why I have them.
That's not what I'm going to do. It really wasn't my responsibility to take action. There was a first sergeant, there was a commander before it got to me. And so those are the people that need to know information about that. I don't, right? And so, I kind of learned what is mine, and then, what is theirs, and make a difference for people who perhaps had not been told that before. But if it's not actionable for me, I don't have to know it. Right. What is my responsibility? And consequences and boundaries and all those things are biblical concepts, right? Understanding what is our responsibility and then what is somebody else's responsibility is the key to our development as well as theirs.
What you're basically saying is just staying in your lane, when we learn how to stay in our lane. Because sometimes we can, and I understand that military concept when you're getting the calls for the DUIs and all of that, but that just serves well for civilians and for life. We need to learn how to stay in our lane. We get so busybody that our lives become disruptive, that we're spending more time on other people's situations than our own. Yeah. And so we have to identify those things. But you go through that so many times and you hit a whole lot of rocks before you discover, you know what, that's not my lane. And I recently I recently even shared with some friends of mine, they were, women call us all the time, as Christians, can you pray for me, but I've learned sometimes, I said, did you pray first? It's not that I'm not empathetic, but did you pray first? Because I don't want to hinder what God wants you to go through. We have to be careful of that as leaders. We have to be careful as to when to intervene and when to not intervene. Yeah. And even in just relationships in general.
One of the things I learned, Veronica, is this idea of doing only what you as the leader can do. because there's some things that only I could do as the leader. Acts, I can't remember what chapter, but the story where they were trying to feed the widows, and you had the disciples, the people who had walked with Jesus, who were feeding the widows, and they're like, you know what, let's delegate this. There's some other people that can do that part. We're the only ones who can, from our own experience, say what Jesus said, share what Jesus said, and so let us do that. And let us delegate this thing that other people can do to other people. And so you got some more leaders that grew out of that experience, right? And so, not only, again, to go back to the point, we prevent development, when we are not doing the things that we can do. So.
Yes.
And a part of that is because it's just in our nature as women to fall, to just go and help,
Good point.
Get into action. We're action people, but sometimes our action can intervene in a way that is not conducive to what is supposed to be the outcome. Yes. So I really love that, that's a good question that you asked too, Julia, just to get us there. And hopefully this is helpful to others to realize that everyone's problem is not your problem, Not that you're not empathetic, but learning how to be empathetic from a distance so that they can grow. Because we make people stagnant because we try to go in and fix it. We didn't fix it. And that goes right into relationships. We want to fix something before it's even broken or before we even know what really needs to take place.
Right. And then I'm also thinking about how you said, stay in your lane. There are some people who their experiences are suited to deal with a certain situation or a certain group of people. I was raised a certain way and I talk a certain way and I grew up in a certain place, and I'm trying to shift over into somebody else's territory, if you will, where their experience and who they are and who they grew up with can handle that better because they understand the dynamics and what's going on. And so as a leader, I don't know, maybe you guys can comment on that. I don't even know. I'm just going to throw it out there. You can't, you might not be able to lead everybody in every area and every situation, or maybe you can, I don't know.
Well, leadership is personal. So the way we lead is personal, but also how we respond to leadership is personal. It's based on our values, our beliefs, what we believe about leadership. So all of those things are, very personal to each of us. And I think the best leaders are the ones that understand that, right? That, I talked about this at the beginning. Everybody brings different strengths, different experiences, different expertise, different values to the table. And the leader that respects all that can see all that can allow every person to show up as in the highest version of themselves and bring all of that authenticity and expertise and experience to the table. The leader that allows that is not overwhelmed by that or, doesn't feel threatened by that is going to get all of that, great, good information. And it's going to be, a better decision maker, right? Because they're going to, take all that. And what I've learned, and Oprah used to say this, is, people want to know that they've been seen and they've been heard and what they bring to the table is valued. And oftentimes I've learned, and we have this thing in the military, it's called salute smartly. And it's this idea that you're supposed to bring everything that you are to the table. The decision maker, whoever that is, makes the decision. You're going to salute smartly and then go out and execute that decision as if it was yours. And I found that when people get an opportunity to bring who they are to the table, that's really all they want. Right. Yeah. They just want to know, I brought what I know to the table. It was listened to. And the leader, the decision maker decided to go in a different direction. And I'm okay with that. And I did my job. I did what I was supposed to do. And so I think when we as leaders can take ourselves out of it, right, and allow the magic to happen, we are more likely to retain those people that, enjoy being engaged. And we'll go forward in a direction that is going to get us the best solution to whatever the issue is. That's been my experience.
Yes. I would also add that a good leader that may not have the expertise of the difficulty that employee or that person or individual is going through, a good leader is going to know how to direct them to the proper resources.
Right.
And that's how you stay in your lane. That's how you're going to direct them. You may not be able to handle it or have the expertise, but you know someone who knows someone, right?
Yeah.
And so you're a good leader. When they're pouring into others to make them better, they're going to also be able to direct them to a resource that is going to be able to help them take that on and get better at whatever it is that they're dealing with, because life happens. And even in our journey as just regular people, we meet all types of people. But sometimes those encounters aren't always for us to be able to be the fix-it people. It's for us to they needed to meet you so that they can meet so-and-so who really can make a better impact. Right. And then it's not being jealous of it. It's not being, oh, well, they were part of my troop. I wanted them for myself. But no, I want to put them in the best place. Yeah. I want to put them in the best place that's going to be better for them, because we all want to be better. Yeah. And so that's what I would add to a good leader being in that characteristic.
Yes. And this also goes, again, going from the military to the family and the relationship. I know that, my feeling is that with a wife or with children, that idea of just allowing me to bring my thoughts, my ideas, who I am to the table, and then you can decide what's best for our family, what's best for our relationship. I can see it working there very well. Because like you said, Renita, we just want to know that who I am and what I bring is valued. And then I'm willing to surrender to the decision. And so that is awesome.
If you are enjoying the F50 Woman podcast, don't forget to share your positive comments and ratings and share us on all your favorite social media channels. F50 Woman is a movement created for women, spread by women. Thank you for your support. Now back to the show and your host, Julia Jack.
I have been writing down some characteristics of leadership as you guys have been sharing them. It's boldness, it's discernment, it's awareness, it's trust your people, stay in your lane. There's wisdom when to go and save and when to stay and wait. And then there's selflessness. So in your experiences and in your knowing, what frames powerful leadership? A building has a frame, they have the structure that holds it up, and then it's got all the pretty stuff put on the outside. But what frames powerful leadership?
I think it's just an awareness of self, first of all. That's the foundation, is an awareness of self. So, who you are, for those people who are believers, who they are in Christ, what their values are, what their strengths are, all of the things that make us uniquely ourselves are the things that make us, powerful leaders. And so when I always say self-awareness is a strategic advantage. So the leader that is self-aware and knows all of those things about him or herself, you talked about the self, all those characteristics, first it's got to start with who you are. I believe, again, so all of those things I talked about personality, I talked about strengths, I talked about all those things, those values, all of those things make us who we are. And we have to be cognizant of that. Our emotional intelligence, our ability to, understand the things that, make us want to stick a pencil in our eye,
yes.
And not just to be aware, but to be able to manage that. Because as I shared my story, about infecting versus impacting. And I learned this at 24, when I infected, my team, I went in with a funky attitude and all of a sudden everybody else was funky. I'm like, okay, what's happening? What is happening here? And I did it, it was me. I was the issue, right? And so, but being aware of that. And so, that awareness then means that I need to do what I need to do before I even show up. We are responsible for the energy that we bring into the space. And when we're a leader, people are laser focused on everything that we do, right? So we may think, oh, I'm not communicating anything. It's leaking out of your face. It's emanating from your being, and so if you're not doing what you need to do to fill yourself up with positive, authentic energy, then you're going to infect your organization. So knowing yourself and being yourself, I think, is the foundation, is the structure. That's what I believe. So
exactly.
What do you think? Yeah.
And you lead by example, and that you pour into people to be better. You pour into yourself by getting the tools that are going to help you lead better. You get to know your team. You get to know who your team is, why they operate, why they function, and then you can find those things that's going to help develop you all to be what you need to be in your mission. Say, for instance, in the military, or in the workplace. That's what makes a good leader. And I like that question, because I thought about, just in my work life, who were the better leaders that I've had? Because I've had a whole lot just in the last 3 years. And it was the ones that poured into their leaders. It was the ones that poured into their employees to make them become better, or that they identified this employee has a good gift in this, instead of having them struggle on something that they don't really know. Why don't I give them this and swap it with the person that really knows? And how do I make my team trust each other?
Yeah.
And how can I make my team respect each other? What things am I teaching them? Because if I'm a leader and I show no respect, no regard for everybody else is going to act like me when they go outside of our organization or outside of our department. I've seen that happen.
Yeah.
And I'll just say it to be frank, if the leader got a funky attitude, you guaranteed every other employee is going to have a funky attitude. And I've seen it happen.
And it goes outside of the organization too, Veronica.
They take it out with them. Yeah.
You take it out with them, because you can't really be that way inside your organization and expect it. So, we have all these logos and brands, but your brand is your culture, right? So if it's funky inside, it's funky outside.
Exactly.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I know, but then they can't handle the nice person, the sweet person, the gentle person, the meek person, because that's not in their characteristics. But then they need to just step back and say, well, wait a minute, maybe that person got a little bit of something I need. Because why is everybody on the outside of our organization only going to this person?
Yeah.
They get better responses. So what can I do? How can I make every one of my team members a great asset for the organization, not just for my department, but for the organization? And it comes with teaching them core values, understanding, and even sometimes teaching them characteristics that they don't know, how to be more gentle. And you can still be tactful, how to make work fun, but yet still produce. I find that you get so much work out of people that love to come to work, have a great attitude, and want to be friends with their coworkers. Sometimes managers don't like the coworkers to be close, but that's how they're building trust and building the team player attitude that you want to have. Because when I know that we're on the same team and you're not my enemy, I'm going to work better with you.
Yeah.
And that's the whole thing. Letting people know that as a leader up front, none of us are enemies, but we're all one. What I do, you do, and even like if it's a president, the vice president is only going to act how the president is in an organization. If the organization's president or the leader is funky, this one's going to have the same way. It's all about how we build relationships. And the interesting thing, it all starts from when we were younger. It's already been developed, but it's how you've also taken what you've learned and you saw that doesn't work. And then I need to tweak it and make it a little bit better.
Do you find that it's hard when you work with other leaders or whether it's leaders in business military, family, do you find it's hard to get them to shift and to accept or to grab onto some of these nuggets? If you're a hard leader and you feel like you got to be the hammerer, how do you get someone to shift their ideas of how to get their team motivated and moved? I don't know.
Yeah.
You know, I see some leaders and you're thinking, oh my gosh, we just have to stay away from them.
They need some training. They need to come and talk to Renita and Veronica, right?
Yes.
and the thing about it is
sometimes it's just they just need a little bit of Jesus, honestly. But yeah.
But I also, and I think it depends on who has that leader's ear.
Okay.
Because sometimes when that leader doesn't have the ear of someone who is compassionate, understanding, and realize that they need to be tweaked, okay. And really it all boils down to accountability. If that leader does not have an accountability partner to tell them the truth, mm-hmm. to let them know, to observe themselves when they're dealing with their subordinates, it could be even in ministry, in the church. Mm-hmm. It's how we handle people. Like you were saying earlier, people want to be seen. And so we just need to show up and tell people, I see you. I missed you. How do we share love with people and not really say the word love? Mm. How do we let people know that you can count on me? I had a call today from someone this morning, and they called me to give me some tragic news. Wow. And it was related to their own personal self, what they were going through. And when I hung up, it really got to me. And all I could say is, wow, that person values me. I've shown this person that I'm always there for them. And they felt in their time of need that I can call this individual. But what I did not let happen is let what they said to me fall off on my ears. Okay. I picked up my phone and I sent a text to let them know that I'm here for you. Okay. Because in the midst, they couldn't hear that. But when they picked up their phone, even if they wasn't answering their phone and they answer it later on tonight and they just go through their phone, they'll see a message like, wow, she took the time after I called her today to write me a message that's going to help me in my time of need. Yeah. That goes back to what we're saying, knowing your lane. Sometimes people call you not for you to fix it. Mm-hmm. It's just to hear. And so that was so impactful for me today. Mm-hmm. And then we would be on Fabulous 50. How do we show up for people? How do we let people know that we're still there for them, even in the midst of what they're going through? And that's life. And that's what happens. So, hopefully the leader will be able to give ear to someone that is holding them accountable to be their best selves, to be better. Mm-hmm. It's when a leader does not have an accountability partner that they go haywire and everything is out of whack in their life. And you find that they have no balance. Yes. And so we all need someone who is accountable to check us. Yes. To check us. Even good or bad. They just need to check us. And that's what I would say. Mm.
One of the things that I have noted during this pandemic, so last year, there was a ton of articles that talked about, women, especially in government, taking on leadership roles and showing this level of compassion and love and kindness and empathy, which is what, of course, everybody needed in this pandemic situation. Right. And we make the mistake, I think, of kind of separating those skills. We call those soft skills. Yeah. Those are leadership skills. Those are leadership skills. And what we're discovering right now during the Great Resignation, or as I like to call it, the Great Reflection, is that people are like, you know what? I don't want to go work for that leader that's not showing those things, that's not being that compassionate person that maybe can, I can pick up the phone and share maybe what I'm going through, as Veronica, just discussed earlier, right? So people aren't, they're like, no, I don't want to do that. I don't want to work for that kind of leader. And so what I'm hoping will happen, and I'm ready to fill the gap. Yes.
Perfect.
We're going to get your contact information after this.
Right.
Yeah.
The training that so many managers, mid-level managers especially need, so they can show those leadership skills, so that compassion, that kindness, that caring, that empathy. This is a chaotic situation. People are in crisis. Mental health has been talked about more than we've ever talked about that in this country.
Yeah.
Because people are suffering. And if we just want to act like business as usual, people are going to leave. They're going to strike. There's been, uptick in strikes. And then, of course, in the uptick in the resignations. And so I think what's happening is leaders are learning, because it's always about the bottom line. It's always about the bottom line. But and I call this feminine energy that is, the things that we call them soft skill, we call them, but no, they're leadership skills. And I think they're coming to the forefront. And I think what leaders are learning is that, if you're not showing that to the people that you are privileged to lead, then they're not going to stay. And people, maybe stayed in the past because, they felt like they needed to stay. But I think this time of reflection over the last almost 2 years now, people are saying, you know what, I don't need to stay in a place where I'm not valued. I don't need to work. I don't need to work for poverty wages. I'm not going to do this anymore. And they're not. Right. And so, so get with it. Get with it, leaders.
Yeah, and I think what happened in this pandemic stage too, I think people have discovered that it was time to take that risk of faith or that act of risk to go out and become who they've always wanted to be.
Yeah.
Whether it was opening up a business, whether it was just taking advantage of leaving a job. And I think people were scared or threatened or whatever. But do you know, I found a new job in the pandemic. So I want people to know that even with this pandemic and they say jobs are scarce and things are happening, I lost a job in a pandemic and I found one. But it's a matter of what you believe, If you don't have that self-doubt, if you just know and believe within yourself that you have something to bring to an organization or to someone else, and it will happen. So I think people just need to be encouraged. And that's why we say, get a mentor, meet someone else to show you more of your characteristics than you believe that you have. Someone else to pick out some of the highlights of the good things that you're doing that you don't even know that they're so natural for you, that can help in areas that you didn't even discover that were there.
Yeah. How do we empower ourselves? A lot of these things are happening, a lot of the crisis, a lot of change. But how do we empower ourselves to have all these characteristics of a leader, to lead our own lives, to lead ourselves into change and to sustain it? And not only to do that for ourselves, but then to do it for others. So talk about how we empower ourselves, and then it'll hopefully spill onto empowering others.
Well, I think empowering ourselves takes us to discover, and learn and find the resources that is going to help us get to our next. We switch our likes and dislikes all the time. What I liked 10 years ago, I may not like today. Executives in this pandemic that discover that I no longer want to work a 9 to 5. I no longer want to be a VP of an organization.
Right.
I want more family time. And you know what? I discovered I like to bake. How about I open up a baking business? I think people have rediscovered and had a reflection of getting back to the basics of doing what you love to do and finding those resources to get you to what you love to do. And the same difference in empowering other individuals. We are helping them to tap into those things and those hidden talents that they have, or hidden talents that have been pressed down because someone else told you couldn't do it. It comes from within, and it comes with courage, and it comes with encouragement from those that are mentors, our loved ones, and those that give us the greatest support that we need.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I agree with everything Veronica just said. I mean, once our basic needs are met, right? Once we have, we can feed our families, we can clothe our families, we have a place to stay, then what are the things that, are bringing us joy that, and it may not be a lot of external things. One of the things I had to ask myself, what do I want to do in this phase of my life? I came to Chicago as a result of a job offer, and a year into it, it was like, this is really not what I want to do. And so I had to reflect, what is it I need? How do I want to live my life now? I want to travel. I want to sit and reflect for an hour or two in the morning. I want to go walk out by the lake if I want to. And so, I quit my job. What do I need to live? So I don't need a bunch of stuff. I'm on the downsizing phase, right? I'm not trying, it's like, I don't need Christmas presents. Now, if you want to take me on a trip,
yes. Then,
but I don't need a lot of stuff. So, just being reflective about what, once the basic needs are met, what is it you need? What is it you're supposed to be doing with your life, and how can you serve a greater purpose and serve others? And so, I have my business, but I do a lot of, pro bono stuff. I do a lot with, young people with regard to leadership. There's an Air Force Academy High School right here in Chicago. I've been doing a leadership empowerment academy with them for 6 years. Earlier today, I'm a part of a program called Legacy Leaders. I just got off the board of the Ideal Candidate, which is a program here in Chicago that gives Black and Brown, particular young adults, the skills that they need to be successful in the job market. So once you kind of have those basic needs met, what is it that gives you joy? How can you use all your skills and your talents to make a difference in the world? And that's, I think, how you empower yourself to, and then to lead others. So,
Okay. So when did you guys find it? Did you realize when you found it, where you felt like, I feel empowered myself? Or did you always feel that way?
I think for me, it took on different phases of life of discovering, one moment or several years, I'm happy in a location, I'm happy in a place, I'm really loving what I do. And then you realize, I need to bring up a protege because I'm not going to be this age forever. So that's when we reach back and we get someone else to take our place because someone else is about to leave where we need to go. So that's how it's worked for me. And just always being in tune to when there are shifts in your life so that you won't get that discouragement and that you won't feel stuck. Always evaluating. And what a great time now, the end of the year. Are you finishing strong?
Yeah.
Are you really doing what you want to do? How many projects did you start and how did you just get one done? And then now this new year, how can I accomplish at least one more task that I didn't do in the previous year? So this is a good time to kind of do the reflection. How did the year turn out? Was it topsy-turvy? Am I just feeling really good now and I'm ending the year strong? But then how do I build on that? And then there's some of us that we might not have finished strong, but it's not anything for you to be discouraged about. You now have a new opportunity in a new year to get those things done.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree. Great question. And it's been the same way with me. Sometimes I felt really powerful, sometimes not so much. And then, I keep discovering layers. I keep finding different depths to my voice. My voice keeps expanding, I've noticed. I, grew up from the South and where disagreement meant disrespect, right? And so I had to learn how to be at the table and say a different opinion. I had to learn how to do that. And so that was something that I've grown into that. And even just, a couple of years ago, I discovered that I was holding back on some things. I was triggered by something that happened. I was like, okay, now why is this? What's going on here? And I had to do a little bit of discovery and excavation. It resulted in some other things that I'm doing more powerfully now than I did before. And so, I agree with Veronica, just kind of, constantly discovering ways to be fully empowered. Some people get that early on. And we see those people, making, differences in their teens and 20s, and not everybody gets it early on, but you can give it to yourself later in life. And I, just want to add on to something that Veronica said, yes, this is the time of year when we're often getting ready to, go into something new. We're making New Year's resolutions. We're thinking about what we want to do, but we can also give ourselves some grace for the things that we didn't complete and ask ourselves why, so what was the reason, what stopped me, what obstacle, what barrier kept me from doing that thing that I said I was going to do, and, kind of cleaning that up before we, try to make those new resolutions, right? Because we can't move forward if we're being held back by, old beliefs and things that no longer serve us.
Yeah.
So
So what I'm hearing a lot, what I'm drawing out from all of this, and I don't know if the listeners hear it and if you guys feel it, but it's very much a self-reflective. It's really all about you and your inside. And you have to keep questioning what's going on. Okay, I felt that something happened just now. What was that? Why am I reacting that way? What did I just do and what didn't I finish? I got to figure out why I didn't do that. It's not really building on skills, putting things on you. I need to speak better. Well, maybe you do, but there's something going on inside. Why don't you speak? Mm-hmm. Why don't you sit at the table and give your opinion? So it comes a lot from the inside. That's what I'm getting out of this.
Yes,
and absolutely.
Yeah. I call it a brainstorming powwow. Okay. A lot of times we need to just sit still. We're so busy that we haven't even realized what we're working on is 50 million things. And then we need to just sit down, have that brainstorming powwow, write it down and say, which item am I closest to finishing?
Yeah.
How about I just work on that? And I like what you said, Renita, about giving ourselves grace, but more so than grace, we also need to forgive ourselves for lack of not accomplishing what we wanted. And it's okay. It's okay. Yes. We might have told 100 people, I'm writing a book this year. And that's really my true story. My book, I got to finish it. I wanted my launch in October. It didn't happen.
Yeah.
But what I did is, okay, now why didn't it happen?
Right.
So now I got to really set aside some time and get it done. That is really going to happen in 2022. You know what I mean? And then also, what resources did I not utilize to the best that I could have, or did I really search out the right resources to help me get that final push? It's little things. It's not always big, gigantic things that we have that we want to accomplish. It's small things. And so I say work from the small and then get to the large, and work smart at it, Spend our time working smartly in those things that we desire and in those things that we want to accomplish. Give yourself grace and to also give yourself forgiveness.
Right.
I do a course called Unblock Your Barriers. And it's all about those internal, and this is not to say, obviously, we are women of color. We're Black women here, sitting here. We have Black children, Black husbands, sons, and daughters. And so there are, things that have been, put out as obstacles for us since we were brought here in chains. But there's also the internal things that often keep us from doing and being what we would do and be. And so that's what, I encourage, the people that I work with to unblock, to remove those barriers so we can step into the fullness of who we're supposed to be.
Yeah,
that's right. Yeah. And just show up being your best self, just showing up being the best that you can be for you.
Yes. Yeah. I was going to ask you both about building unshakable character, but I feel like a lot of the things we talked about were all about character. It's all about who you are and how you show up. But when it comes to your internal, your boldness, your self-awareness, your voice, why you're here, what you're doing, how do we build that to be unshakable? You can't move me. I've already decided this is what I'm going to do.
I would say it's when we go through stuff that we have no control over. It's the stuff that happens in our life, whether it's a tragedy, whether it's a mishap or whatever, it's going to build character no matter what. We're going to become stronger. You discover that, wow, I didn't know I had the wherewithal to go through that, but I did. So then now I'm empowered and I'm encouraged that, you know what? Anything that I encounter that is a challenge is to help me be better. And it is for my greater good. And if we learn that, then we can help someone else to realize, child, what you're going through, you're going to be able to get through it. You don't see it now, but let me tell you, if you just follow in your, in the path that you're on the right track, you're going to get through it. And that's what we do. That's how we encourage people. The stuff that we go through in life is what builds character. It's in our going through that we discover more about who we are as an individual and what characteristic that we might have had that was weak. Life is discovering a new you every day.
One of my favorite leadership gurus, Warren Bennis, talks about the crucible moments that we have, which is, what Veronica is talking about, those things that test who we are to our core, test our values, test our faith, test our character, test who we are and the decisions that we then make. He uses Robert E. Lee as an example of someone who didn't necessarily pass that test. He was a West Point graduate, and when, was asked to, lead the secession from the Union, chose to go with the rebels, chose to go with those who would have seceded from the Union. And so we all have tests that we can use to build on who we are. And then I always say a test is so that we have a testimony, because it's not, we don't get tested just because, we get tested so we can share how we got over, how we broke through with someone else. The things that we go through are the things that help us to be just rooted in who we are, rooted in our faith. Because, when you're going through something, maybe that was because you needed to pray some more, right? Maybe that was, you need to look internally to something. When we go through those things, that is when I think we just get rooted in who we are and we show ourselves. And then that is what allows us then, to withstand the next one. Because, what are you going to do to me now?
Right.
Yes.
Right. And in addition to that, it is our test. And I like how you say our tests are our testimonies. But, we can be shaken and we can still come out unbroken. That's the thing about it, we
can fall down, but we got to get back up.
Get back up, like Donnie McClurkin says in his song. Right. But more than that, life is going to shake us. There's things that's going to shake us to our core. And that is what's going to help us. That's when we discover, am I going to let this thing keep me there? Or I'm going to build from this? So we can be shaken, but we don't always have to remain broken. And so it's when we share our story, we don't even realize when what we're going through, there's always someone there in that dirty place, in that dark place to help pick us up.
And Veronica, there's somebody waiting on your book right now.
Girl, somebody's waiting on my book. And I know they're waiting on my book.
They want to know who got over.
Right. And Renita, you and I are going to catch up because you're an author. So you're going to give me those tools.
My book is right back there, sir.
And this is the thing. And, I look at life, my husband is anybody that knows him, I don't even know to say if he's a sports enthusiast or he's a sports fanatic. But I have learned that it's in the end zone where things happen and where we get the victory. And so I got to put my book in the end zone so I can have my eye on the prize to get there. And so I'm saying that to anybody else. What is it that you want to discover? What is it that has stopped you from getting to what you want? Put it in the end zone and aim forward, because that's where the touchdowns happen. That's where the victory dances are. And so just know that you can make it and you can get through it. I mean, I might have stopped in the midst of my book, but I know, like you say, someone is waiting for my book. But I'm also in the grooming stages where God is kind of restructuring what I started so that it can really fit the place and meet the needs of the individuals that read it. So I totally agree with that.
Yeah. So I have one more question. I know our time is winding down. How do we're not professionals, we're not coaches, we're not leadership trainers, but how do we in our everyday lives help to coach people into being better?
Well, Julie, I am a professional coach and trainer.
Yes. Yes. So you guys are going to tell us, those who are not, how to do that. Yeah. But, we know there's a lot to it. But just in our everyday lives, trying to figure out how do we help people? My husband is so amazing at just helping people. I mean, I don't know if it's it's got to be a gift because the things just roll. Whereas I'm a good listener, I'm not really good at telling you what to do next.
Coaching is all about listening.
Okay.
And it's sometimes in the talking around the problem or the issue that people discover, because it's already in them. The answer is already in them. The answer was implanted in them. Sometimes they just need some help discovering it. And so you may not think that you're doing a service, but people pay thousands of dollars to just to be listened to. So
I'm going to start my LLC tomorrow.
That's right.
Julia's coaching. All I do is listen. That's my tagline.
Sometimes it's just in the listening that they discover the answer.
Yep. Okay.
So
nice.
And
I'm so glad I asked that question.
No, seriously, that's a great question. Simple. And there's sometimes people just need somebody to listen to them.
Yeah.
They just need somebody to listen, and to show them some compassion and caring and empathy. They're not necessarily looking for the answer because, when sometimes you just want to talk to your husband, you don't really want the answer.
Okay.
He's not there.
Most of the time. Yeah.
So that is so good. I like that. And it starts with listening. And what you do is you do your best to help them come up with their own answers. That's just how simple it is. Because the whole point of it is you can't tell them what to do in coaching. I like the idea that you brought up, Renita, with your husband. We go and we talk about our day, we tell our husband something, and what happens? They automatically go into fix-it mode.
Yes.
So I preface things with my husband sometimes. I say, honey, I want us to talk. I want to say something to you, but I don't really need you to fix it. I just want you to listen, because sometimes they need to know their role, because their role, like we say, we're natural women that go to rescue. They're natural fixers.
Yeah.
My wife got an issue. I got to make her happy. I need to go fix it. Well, sometimes we don't need that. We just need you to listen. Right. And really, people don't really need you to fix their issue. They already have the answer.
Okay.
They just need you to listen. Yeah. And they just need a head nod that you hear them, and what they have to say is valuable. Yeah. That's all it is. It's so simple. Yeah. By them talking it out, it makes more sense because people don't feel like, I could talk to myself. But if I had someone else to talk to, they can get at the answer. They can come up with the answer and the solution themselves. Yeah. And that's really what it is. You can't tell people what to do. Tell people what to do, they got to do the opposite. But if people come up with their own answers, they're going to go do them because they had an aha moment,
Very true.
Yeah.
Well,
absolutely to all of that.
I want to thank you both so much. This has been so much fun. And I just feel like I got a master class and I didn't have to pay for it.
Right.
It was so incredible. I feel so empowered in myself to do things and to act on things, and that you can grow and that it can keep going and building, and especially the forgiveness of what you didn't do this year. And so you go into next year with not the same or similar plan to end up December at the same place. So just some incredible advice. I hope that the listeners are taking notes. You're going to want to take notes. I'm going to say that at the beginning when I do the intro, get a notebook. But I will really want the listeners now to hear two things: how they can get in touch with you after this is over, and tell us about your book, your next project, just how we can, or they can, or we can all get engaged with you after this is over.
I have a website, leadershipunlocked.com is my website. You can find me at Renita at leadershipunlocked.com. So that is my professional email address. I'm on social media at Leadership Unlocked. That's the name of my company, and I'm on Instagram.
Find you everywhere. Yes.
I'm on Instagram. I'm on LinkedIn. I think LinkedIn is Renita Alexander, as well as Facebook. So I'm primarily on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. So yeah, hit me up.
That's where we find you. And I will put that information in the show notes with links so everybody can get in touch with you. And
awesome.
How about you, Veronica?
Oh, yes. You can reach me at Alliance Seminars Coaching on Facebook, and then allianceseminars.org is our website.
Okay.
We're there. You type in Alliance Seminars or Alliance Seminars Coaching, and you will get us there. We'll be glad to help anyone.
Good. As we go out, tell me what's next. What's your next thing? What's your next mission or project? Or tell me what's next.
You did ask for that, and I
did. Yes. I'm not going to let you go without it because I want to know.
Well, absolutely. So my signature group coaching program is Leadership Chromosome. And so I'll be offering that starting in the new year. And so that, check out on the website. It's a way to get engaged and involved. And this is, for individuals who want to learn how to be the best leaders that they can be, so they can step into the positions, be at the table and step into the positions that they deserve to be in. And so it's a group coaching program where individuals will be a part of a group, which is different from my team coaching program. I do have a team coaching program for existing teams. It's called the Agile Leader. But those are things that are happening in 2022. So check me out.
Nice. Yes. Thank you. Yeah. How about you, Veronica? What is next for you?
Oh,
a book is coming.
Oh my gosh. Yes, a book is coming. It was birthed in me, I want to say back in 2009, but it has taken on a switch maybe about 3 years ago. So I'm hoping to launch my book this time next year. We'll say, oh, wow, she accomplished it. Woo, woo,
Yes.
And then just continuing on with leadership training, as well as individual coaching, marriage coaching for those that are engaged and those that are having some hiccups. We'll be glad to just help navigate you to having a marriage that can thrive, to be healthy.
Nice. Well, thank you so much. I want to just put a plug in for both of you that I am imagining and dreaming about a conference, an online conference that F50 Women can do. And I would just love to just put the bug in your ear that maybe you each can be speakers, workshop leaders. I am so excited.
That would be nice.
Know you. So yeah, that's
awesome. I love it.
That's what I'm hoping to birth in 2022, maybe the beginning 23, but
okay.
More to come. So I'm putting my plug in there early so nobody will take you from me.
That's right. Yes. And that's one thing I want to say, Julia. I don't mind collaborating. I love the collaboration that we have because it's all about encouraging one another to become their best self.
Yeah. Wonderful. So thank you both again for being here. And it has been amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You've been listening to the F50 Woman podcast. Join the F50 Woman movement and this diverse group of voices to help change the world one woman at a time. Why should you join at your age? Because we're not done yet.